What's up YouTube? Scott, Scanny Tradition, back with another video. Thought I'd do a video today kind of highlighting my collecting evolution throughout the last number of years. So I first got back into the hobby in 2013. That's about 7 years ago. And I did a lot of things in the beginning that I might not have done again. So hopefully this gives some pointers to the rest of you who maybe are just starting out in collecting, just getting back into collecting. And how you do it, what I would do over it, what I wouldn't change. So yeah, 2013, basically, when I got back into the hobby, the one thing that I did first was I was involved in a lot of breaks of products. So basically you buy a spot in a break and either you could possibly hit some cards or you might not be able to hit some cards. And I did that for about a good year, and where it was fun at times, it was also not fun losing money. So I kind of equate that to like, owning a home versus renting. If you have to rent, so be it. But if you have the choice, I would much rather own a home, and with each payment that I make, that goes into the equity of the house. Well, if all you're doing is breaks, then the money that you're spending on that, it goes nothing. It's like throwing it out the window. You do finally hit something in a break, and then you end up having to sell it to recoup money in the first place. Nobody ever makes out on a ton on breaks, just like nobody ever really makes money on gambling, unless you can control some of the aspects of it. So it just was not sustainable to me. So I did breaks for a good year, and then I kind of got away from the whole breaking thing. And honestly, I haven't done a break since 2014. I think was the last time I did an actual break. Now I have opened. I still probably open about 1 to 3 hobby boxes per year. Here's a limited football box I opened a couple years ago. I actually pulled a Saquon Barkley out of 5 in there, so that worked out well, actually. Then I did do a couple boxes of Prism this year. But, when I'm buying the hobby boxes, I am doing it distinctly for the enjoyment of it, for entertainment. Like, I'm not going into it thinking that I'm going to make my money back or that I need to or anything like that. It's just purely entertainment. That's how I look at it. So I still do about 1 to 3 boxes just to kind of keep things real, because it is fun ripping packs, no doubt about it. But breaks, I just cannot throw money at breaks anymore, so I haven't done that since probably about 2014. And then, so late 2014 is when I started to get into collecting, third-party grading type stuff. So PSA is kind of what I went with, and although that wasn't the first card that I bought, the first card that I purchased was actually a Brett Favre rookie card, because I've always remembered that card, the 91 Stadium Club, from when I was growing up collecting. And that was the error card, so he spelled his first name wrong on the card. And I picked up, which I thought was a gem copy, it was a BCCG 10. And of course, now looking back at it, we all, anybody who's been in the hobby for a little while, realizes what BCCG is. It's kind of a cheap grading company that pretty much everything is a 10. A card looks like it has to be like cut in half for it to be anything less than a 10. So I ended up, I still did get that Favre rookie in a PSA 10. So I did get that copy. And ironically, I got this card for about $100 back in 2014. This is now a $500 card, apparently, with all the prices that are rising. So yeah, this was kind of that first football card that kind of got me going. And of course I decided to do the PSA set registry for the Packers Team Hall of Fame, and I'm still actively working on that. I have for all intents and purposes completed the set, but I do upgrades, maybe not very many anymore, maybe like 1 to 3 a year at the most. But that Favre was probably the first card that got me started on that registry, and I worked hard on that registry, probably for 2014 to 2017, so a good 3 to 4 years. And I took my time with it. I got the best graded example I could find, the highest quality card I could find, and it's certainly something I'm proud of. I'm number 2 on the PSA set registry for the Packer Hall of Fame rookies. So definitely proud of that, and it's something that I will always cherish. I have no regrets for collecting the Packers, and that's kind of maybe a cautionary tale. Make sure that you're all collecting what you want to collect, what you like to collect. With the way prices have risen lately, there's a tendency to sort of really delve into that money aspect of it, and in some cases it makes sense to make money to put back into cards you really want in your collection. No doubt about it. I did that myself a couple weeks ago when I saw that a couple of my cards have risen to crazy numbers. But I try not to do that to buy cards just for that purpose. You know what I mean? Sometimes it makes sense, but I think in the big picture, you might be a little upset eventually when the bottom starts falling out of some of these cards that have risen to such crazy levels and have such high print runs. I don't know if that's sustainable. I completed the Packers Team Hall of Fame set, and there's some big cards in that set that I have, like some cards I will always treasure. Like here's an example of a 1935 National Chickle Swede Chester Johnston, and this is like pop 16, only 2 graded higher. Those two are both 9s. I don't know that you're going to find a better copy than this one. And this card cost me a pretty penny back about 4 or 5 years ago. But I never sit around and look at it, and I'm not like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that, because this is an all-time Packers great. I am always going to be a fan of the Packers. That's kind of my team, and so this card will kind of never grow out of style with me. It'll never grow old, and that's why I focus on stuff like this. Something I can look at and just really appreciate and just smile about. Once I completed that set registry, right, and prices got really high for any upgrades I was going to do. Then, I kind of did a few other registry sets. I did like the all-time Brewers, all-time Buck sets, again, and I have completed the all-time Buck set. But those are sets that kind of, again, they're local teams. They're things that I'll always be proud of. I'll always have interest in. I love displaying. They're great conversation pieces to me. So really, when you collect stuff that you like, you really can't lose, and that's kind of why I got into it that way. Some other things I got into were like high quality patch cards, game used patch cards from the mid 2000s, kind of the late 90s. That whole like early 2000s was just wonderful for game used patch cards, just super high quality. I wish I had an example here, but I think those cards could really hold value as we keep going here. Nowadays, a lot of the patches are player worn. They're not game used. Back in the day, there was not as many jerseys used. Like for Bart Starr, for instance, they repaired a lot of their jerseys and they just kept playing on them. So there is a finite amount of material in those cards that are actually game used. So that's kind of why I did it that way. There's just a certain quality to those cards too from the early 2000s. I just absolutely love them. And, I do display a lot of that stuff kind of around my vintage stuff in my card room. So I kind of got into that a little bit here and there. And then in about 2018, I decided to delve into that top 250 set. So that's, you're collecting key Hall of Fame rookie cards, in general, just key cards in the hobby for some of the biggest players in the hobby. So in 2018, I started doing that, and that kind of got me into a little more of the vintage baseball collecting. And this was kind of my big first card that cued me off on that. Like, I remember just searching, and I'm like, man, I just love the look of that card. I'd love, if I'm going to add 1 or 2 baseball cards, like, this is a card that I want. Like, look at the action pose on there. Shout out to Alex Bowman 53. I know he's got a whole slew of these cards. But this is the one that did it for me in vintage baseball. That kind of got me down that rabbit hole. And again, I have no regrets. Like, you're not going to regret owning a Pee Wee Reese 53 Bowman color card that looks like that. It's just beautiful. Displays well. It's graded to 5. So super happy with that. And then, as we sit today in 2019, 2020, whereas I did a lot of my Packers registry stuff earlier was in super high grade, and I'm really proud of that and how I built that set and took my time with it and bought quality. Now, I kind of along the same lines, but to be a little more financially sound, I'm also looking for quality and high eye appeal, but on generally low to mid grade cards. So for instance, I picked this up at the National. Some of you might remember who were with me when I picked this up. This is the 1933 Goudey Sport Kings Bobby Jones. Great golfer, and this is just an iconic card. It's in the top 250 set. And look at this, just great centering, great color, great eye appeal, displays immaculately. These are the kind of cards that I'm looking for nowadays. So super proud to own that. You know, it doesn't matter to me that it's in a 1 or 2. You know, I picked up the green Ty Cobb earlier this year in a 1. Beautifully centered, beautiful color. Totally cool with that. Displays, actually, no, Ty Cobb I do not display, but it's cards like that that do display really well, and the kind of cards I'm looking for. So, I guess, in closing, it's kind of been repeated, but collect what you like. Make sure that you're collecting, you know, teams, players that you really like, and then you can't lose. You know, if a market drops out the bottom of it, you're not going to be stuck with a bunch of cards that you just are owning for financial gain or just to kind of have a measuring contest with the next person. Because I can tell you, even if, you know, I think it's unlikely at this point, and that's part of the reason I focus a fair amount on vintage. Cards like this aren't going to drop the bottom out of it necessarily. You know, they're already established, and there's a finite amount of these cards in existence. So, but even if they did drop out, like, I would still take pride in owning cards like this just because of their historical significance. So, hope you guys all got something from the video. I just wanted to kind of take the time and just kind of show my evolution and how, you know, things have gone for me over the last 7 years in collecting. Still having fun with the hobby in different ways, and no regrets so far, and certainly happy that I found YouTube and the great community we have on here. That's certainly really enhanced my collecting as well. So with that being said, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you guys have a great Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.